So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hi, Jay Allen from Mitro North welcomes to the Add a Zero podcast, where over the next 3 episodes, I'll be speaking specifically to 7-figure and 7+ figure business owners as part of our capacity compass, and talking about the 3 most common challenges that 7 and multi-7-figure businesses face. And the first of those, the primary one, is all around leadership. I'm intrigued to determine as to what do you consider to be a good leader. If I was to ask you to list people within your own life that you've considered as not just leaders, but good leaders, which names come to mind? Is it the greats, the Gandhis, the world leaders of this time? Is it people within your own hemisphere and people that you've been led by in the past, either professionally or personally, maybe a parent or guardian? Where do you go to for inspiration when it comes to leadership in your business? Invariably, this tends to act as a bias towards who we are, what we do, and what we consider as good leadership. And yet, today I want to talk to you about the 5 levels of leadership, and to determine as to where are you on that scale, and how do you move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 in order to become the best possible leader that you can possibly be. If you recall from last week, we were talking about team and how to be voted a super boss. Well, this is a step beyond that, and taking that to its 8th degree, if you like, to really understand what it takes to be not just a leader, but a great person that people want to follow. I'm really fortunate that, having spent my first 12 years in uniform as a rapid deployment soldier in the British Armed Forces, I was surrounded by people in a very hierarchical organisation to be able to take influence and reference from when it comes to leadership. I subsequently went on 2 different leadership training courses in the military, and subsequently a further one since I left the military. And I've been surrounded by people, certainly within my role when I was member of the Leaders Club, of some of the most phenomenal and forward-thinking leaders in the country right now, to be able to take inspiration and guidance from. So, have you got that list? Have you given considerations to the people with whom have influenced your perception of what leadership is and how to be a better leader? Let's look at these 5 different levels of leadership to determine as to 1, where you think they sit, and 2, more importantly, where do you sit? When it first comes to becoming a leader, be that taking on your first employee, be that becoming a parent, be that in any walk of life or whatever role in business that we're in, when people start to look to us for guidance and support, we adopt that role of leadership. And the risk is that when we first adopt that role of leadership, we get to a position of positioning. That's not my job anymore. I'm a leader. I witness this all the time when people first got promoted in the military from private soldiers to lance corporal, and all of a sudden they walked around with their single chevron shining for everyone to see. That's not my job anymore. I'm a lance corporal. Positioning. Don't get me wrong. There's a role for positioning in leadership, certainly for a new found leader, to be able to state their authority, to be able to acknowledge that they've stepped out of being a doer and more into the supervision of the doing. It's an incredibly important psychological milestone to move into and through as we step away from being business operator and into business owner. However, from the receiver's perspective, People who stay in position one or the first tier of management and leadership, positioning, follow because they have to. Follow because it's the rule, because we are adamant and set in our parameters that you do that and I do this. And it's not a great place to stay as we evolve as a manager leader. So positioning has its part. Its parts to play in being able to move away from operator and into owner. But it's something that we shouldn't be aiming to stay in for long before we evolve into the second level of leadership, all around permission. At permission, we are looking to build relationships. We are looking to be able to build allies. We are looking to be able to find other people to be able to put on a pedestal and to be able to push forward in their own development. As a permissions-based leader, we are looking to be able to help others to step onto that positioning piece. In order to be able to do so, we will start to create advocates. We will allocate championships. I have somebody who champions our marketing, somebody who champions our sales, somebody who champions our operational effectiveness. We haven't necessarily made them managers and paid them accordingly. Somebody who takes a responsibility, somebody who steps forward and is able to be good at something and willing to take on a few additional roles and responsibilities. Somebody that's going to oversee the premise or oversee the programming of, oversee the outcome of, to manage, to support. And our job is to be able to identify who those people are and to invite them to be able to take on that role. Our job is to be able to build relationships and to help others to evolve. And as a result of which, people do what we ask them to because they feel compelled to do so, because they've got a relationship with us, because they want to see us do well as a leader, and it recognise that by us doing well, they will do well also. It's about re-establishing those teams. And we often saw this in the military when people moved from lance corporal to corporal and put a second chevron on their arm. Now it was all around collaboration, around teamwork, around being part of and leading a small team of people to be able to collectively achieve more than any one or a group of individuals would have done. It's all around the collective and understanding the importance that together everyone achieves more. That team analogy, together everyone achieves more. And that's a great place to be for a smaller business, for a small individual team, being a level 2 leader all around the permissions-based leadership is a great place to be. However, as the business continues to evolve and develop, as we move from a single team into a group of teams, our job changes also. Our job and role as leader changes also. And we move into that of a production-led team. Now it's all based on results. Now it's all based on being able to ensure that the right people are in the right teams with the right kit and the right equipment and the right resources and permissions to be able to create efficiencies. Now it's all around those spreadsheets and looking at being able to make marginal gains, to polish the diamond even further, almost to play one team off against the other. Not in a negative way, but in a highly competitive, friendly way to be able to ensure that we've got the right people doing the right things in the right way with the right equipment to get the right results. So moving from corporal to sergeant, it was all around being able to sit down and to understand who's in which team, sometimes swapping people over within teams to determine can we get those additional marginal gains. And again, this is great as the business moves from multi-6 into 7 figures. It's to be able to understand how to be able to get the most out of the resources that we've got available to us, both human resource and the help and support and guidance and the sections and the teams and the technology that we've got. Are we working it efficiently? Are we sweating the assets to ensure that we're getting the most bang for the buck? Are we getting the best return on the investment that we are putting into, both the human investment and that of the time and resource. And many multi-6 and 7-figure businesses are very, very efficient and effective at operating at this production-based leadership level. However, in order for the business to be able to continue to move forward and develop even further and to move from 7 into multi-7 figure, there's 2 more levels left. The next and the 4th level of leadership is around people development. It's not just about managing the numbers and the efficiencies, but understanding the importance of creating careers and not just jobs, about evolving people, individuals, being able to reinvest in our junior level of management to be able to help them to be able to grow and evolve and move further forward. It's about stepping out of the role of leader and moving more into the role of coach and mentor, about being able to put the training in place, to be able to look at business evolution, to ensure that we've got the right systems and processes, that they're up to date and working efficiently, and that we're developing the people within the business for them to be the best that they can possibly be. And multi-7-figure businesses learn to really become skill set matched, ensuring that we've got the right people with the right level of skills, competences and abilities to be able to do the best job that they can in the role that they're in currently, and understand the career development and the opportunity available to them, that they stay and remain committed to the business beyond their current job. I'll never forget an old regimental sergeant major once teaching me all around the career progression within the military. And he simply said, Jay, as a corporal, the only way that you will ever evolve to become a sergeant is if you first identify the weakest playing sergeant, the one that's got the most developments to do, and to identify as to how you could be a better sergeant than them at doing that role. How do you keep one eye on the future of where you want to head, and to demonstrate to the business that you are equally competent, at least, of being able to take on that rank, role and responsibility. However, that's only half the job. The other half is the military will never promote you out of the current role that you're in if you're the best person at doing that job. So the other eye should be on looking at a lance corporal who's coming up and evolving through the ranks to determine as to what training and help and support do they need in order to become equally competent in the role that you're about to leave. That the business doesn't suffer as you move from one role to the other. So what are you doing in your business to be able to create career development and business evolution, to looking at efficiencies and effectiveness, which is where we come from at production, at level 3 level leadership, and then helping to understand who in the business has the aspirations to move beyond their current role, and what additional skills and responsibilities do they need? How are we going to enable them to evolve and develop as a human being? What opportunities are we making available to them for them to step into and shadow that new level of responsibility, to determine as to whether it fits well for them, and helping them to understand that in order to be able to move up the ladder from part of the team to team leader to managers to director and so on, is that they have to create career evolution beyond them also, and to support their teams to grow. And that's the 4th of the 5 levels of leadership. And that will help a multi-7 or 7 and multi-7 figure really push the needle towards that 8th figure in business. However, there is a 5th, the final and the top level of leadership. It's referred to as Pinnacle. And what we mean by that is we become a business asset. It's almost what I call in the military servant leadership. How do I step out of the leadership circle sufficiently that I can look back at it and say, where are my skills? Where are my experience? Where is my knowledge and qualification best suited to slip into the whole business evolution to be able to help and develop it continue to grow and develop? What do I need to do to support my private soldiers, my lance corporals, my corporals, my sergeants, my staff sergeants, my warrant officers to evolve and develop further? Where can I best fit to be able to enable that to happen? What resources are required? What added benefit can I bring to the business that each and every person within it feels so compelled to be able to lean in and do more? I had the great privilege and honour to serve under a gentleman who, at the time, I knew as Lieutenant Colonel Rowan. At the time, he'd just become the commanding officer of our unit and was manager, CEO, if you like, to about 180, 190 different soldiers. The difference between Lieutenant Colonel Rowan and any other manager that I'd served in the military was that he knew the soldiers beneath him. He took the time to really understand and recognise us individuals, us as teams, us as sections, and how to be able to evolve and develop us as people. He took the time to invest in understanding us as individuals, not just as a regiment, and was able to be able to encourage, motivate, inspire us to want more, be more, do more. And as a result, he was recognised as a leader. Like I say, I was very incredibly privileged and honoured to serve under Lieutenant Colonel Rowan, certainly in Bosnia and in other conflicts, sometimes volunteering to go into a war zone in order to be part of a team, to put my own life at risk in order to be part of a winning team. That, to me, is the measure of a leader. And it's why Colonel Rowan was recognised in such a way and went on to be colonel and brigadier and eventually leave as a 3-star general, deputy commander of military activity land in the medical services, tri-service, one of the highest ranking officers in the British Army, as a direct result of his willingness and understanding to say, what does it take? What do I need to do to help and evolve not just my own career at the expense of everybody else, but how do I help everybody else to stay with me and grow with me? That as I grow, they grow, and as they grow, I grow also. Being able to go back to servant leadership, being able to, instead of sitting at the chairman's table or chairwoman's table and saying, I demand X because I've got to Y, being able to step outside of the leadership roles altogether, to allow our leaders to lead and to move back into business evolution, to understand what does the business need in order for it to become the best and most efficient that it can possibly be. Where do you sit on the leadership scale now? Where do those people that I asked you to list as the leaders of your innovation, of your inspiration, where do they sit on that scale? What do you need to do differently to step up and to become an even stronger leader, to recruit, to retain, to reward a growing team of superheroes? If you want to learn more, I've spoken about it excessively in Chapter 8 of Add a Zero, Scale to Summit, the sequel to my first book, Establishing Basecamp. I'd really love to be able to hear your feedback, so please feel free to email the show at podcast@mytruenorth.biz. The link will be in the show notes. And if you've enjoyed and got something from today, I really encourage you to share, like, and develop, subscribe to the show so we can ensure that this message gets to more and more business owners just like you. God bless, take care. I'll see you again next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast, presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.